Well, it's truly, truly a pleasure to welcome all of our presenters today, including Al Steele and Ben Ficklen and Franca Meloncelli and Alberto. So yes, we have a full program. So I'm going to get started. Al, I will tell you that I stalked you a little bit, both on LinkedIn and on our district DACDB. So here goes. If I get it wrong, sorry ahead of time. So you've been a member of Fort Mill Rotary since 1991. You've served in all sorts of capacities with the club, the board of directors, club president. You're a major donor, Paul Harris Fellow with Rotary Foundation. You're with Paul Harris Society, Service Above Self Award recipient, and you've been very active at the district level in all sorts of things, including Foundation, the Global Grants Advisory Committee, the Paul Harris Society, the Committee on the Major Donors, international projects, and water projects coordinator. So, wow. It just blows me away. You're obviously very passionate about Rotary and all the things you help us succeed in. I will say this, and this was I think from Facebook with your club. Your favorite part of Rotary is watching new members join and make the Rotary connection. Watching their Rotary light come on in whatever area of service they embrace is satisfying. As a charter member of the Fort Mill Rotary Club. So apparently the most rewarding part of being a Rotarian, according to Facebook, has been traveling to Honduras dozens of times to date and helping those in Honduras that do not have the same opportunities we enjoy. You're a Clemson grad, and you once owned a Fort Mill Ford, and under your leadership, the dealership became one of the premier Ford dealerships in the area. Then you opened the Fort Mill Pharmacy, and then you sold it, and then you became a lumber salesman. So you are clearly a Renaissance man, getting into all sorts of things. So you've been married to your lovely wife for 39 years, and you have 2 kids and twin granddaughters. If you have more by now, feel free to correct me on that. And Ben, very, very welcome to you. Fort Mill Rotary since 2012, I believe. You got your BS at UNC Chapel Hill and a master's in accountancy from USC. And you are a tax and treasury manager at Fenner, U.S. Corporate Office. So that's all the time I'm going to take, but welcome, and we're very excited to hear from you today.
Okay, thank you very much. That was quite an intro. I'd forgotten a lot of those things. But Rotary has been a big part of my life, the majority of it since we started the club in 1990, and I've watched it grow and develop over time. So it's been very fulfilling. My goal today was to just give a brief synopsis of how all this started, and then kind of turn it over to Alberto and Franca, since they are the district photography experts and took a couple thousand pictures from our last trip, which we just returned from 2 weeks ago tomorrow. So with that, I'll start. We were in Honduras with a Presbyterian missionary through the Providence Presbytery in the early 2000s. And we were going a couple times a year and building concrete block houses. We were replacing the stick wall, dirt floor, thatched roof houses for them. There's an insect called chagas, or the disease called chagas, that they get from an insect that lives in the thatch of the roof. They call it the kissing bug, and it comes out at night while they're sleeping, and it will bite them on their head or scalp, and it basically gives them heartworms, or the beginning of heartworms, and it takes about 30 years for the heartworms to develop to the point that it kills them. So when you go to these villages, usually most people are in their 30s or 40s because they probably got bit when they were a child at home. So you very rarely see an older person in the grass hut villages. So that was our purpose there, to replace their hut with a 20-foot by 30-foot concrete block house with a concrete floor and a tin roof. And we were, like I said, we were taking maybe 20 people from the church the two Presbyterian churches in Fort Mill were taking groups of teams to help build these houses and pay for the materials to build them with. And I guess on the second or third trip, we go back to the hotel one day after a long day in the field working on houses, and there was a sign in the lobby of the hotel that said Club Rotario meets tonight. So there were 3 of us from the 20 members of the church that were members of our club. So I said, hey, it'd really be cool to go home with a Honduran makeup slip. Back then, Rotary was big on attendance and pushed you to get, to visit other clubs and get makeup slips if you had to miss your own. So we did. We were in the city or town of Capon Ruins, which is where the big Maya pyramids are located, which is the number 2 largest tourist attraction in all of Honduras. So about half the club members spoke English because there were a lot of English-speaking tourists that came to their town. So it worked out really well. They would translate for us during the meetings and that kind of thing. So we got our first makeup slip on one of our trips in 2006. We went back about 5 or 6 months later, and we were working in a different village at that time, and this was an indigenous tribe of indigenous Maya descendants that had been given a reservation, a large reservation on the side, covered a couple of mountains. They were given the reservation by the Honduran government in 1968. We were there in 2006, 38 years later, and there were, I think, 34 families that were living in that village. And the on the very north corner of their reservation, 3 meters from their property line, was a very good clean water spring. But when the Honduran government gave them the reservation, they did not include the spring in their reservation. They let the farmer keep the spring for his cows. And so he had never let them have access to the spring water. So they had been burying, about a third of their children by age 7. The mortality rate's 35 or 40% by age 7 in villages where they have to drink parasite-laden water. So this village had been burying some of their children for 38 years when we were there doing the houses. And the missionary told me that story. I just could not believe that someone would be that cold-hearted, to put their cows ahead of the health and well-being of human beings. But we're dealing in a third world country, basically. And as you can imagine, the way we treat indigenous people here over the last 250 years, pretty much third-class citizens in a third world country is what we had down there. So you can only imagine it was even worse. So we decided that week that we would get another makeup slip. We enjoyed their club meeting, so we went back to their club meeting the second time, and they were talking about their first matching grant from the Rotary International Foundation. It was a $110,000 grant, and it was going to provide sand filters. Basically, it's a plastic box. It's got different layers of sand in it, and you pour bad water in the top, and good water comes out of the bottom. And their grant was going to provide 1,200 of these sand filters to the villages around that area. So we told them about the people in El Bonete where we were building the houses and about the farmer not letting them have access to the water. And so we asked them if they would consider including this village in their project. And they promised us they would. They probably would give us some of the first filters in that village. And we were just pretty much blown away that all we would do is, tell their story at a Rotary Club meeting, and we probably saved some lives just by getting a makeup slip. It was very humbling to know that, we could have that impact just by simply telling their story. And so that's basically how it started. And then the vice president of the club at the time, who was managing the project, owns a business there in town that's called La Casa de Todo, which translates into house of everything. She had a restaurant, a bar, a gift shop, and an internet cafe. Back then, you could pay her $1 an hour and use one of her computers and check your email. So that was a very popular place. So I had, like I said earlier, we're Presbyterians, so we drink right out in public. And so I got 8 or 10 of the church members and said, let's go to Saunders, before dinner tonight, have a couple of beers and thank her for the water filters. So we did. We got in there and got the first round going. And first thing she said to us, she said, I don't think we're going to need the water filters. And I said, oh, Sandra, what happened? Because politics is really bad down there and corruption's even worse. I just assumed that someone in that village had offended the mayor 10 years ago and he wasn't going to let them have access. He wasn't going to let them have the filters. So I said, well, Sandra, what happened? She says, well, she said, last night after the meeting, she said, I saw the vice mayor here in town and told him about the farmer not letting the people in Bonete have access to the water. She said, this morning, the vice mayor told our mayor about it and about them not having access. And he said, our mayor called the mayor in the next town over. The county line cuts diagonally across the reservation. So the houses were in the city town where we were staying, but the spring was actually in the next county over. So that mayor called the mayor in the next county and told him about the farmer, and he called the farmer, and she said that the farmer's going to let them have access to the water. So there again, we were blown away, taken back, however you want to call it, that we would, they've been burying their children for 38 years, and all we did was tell their story at a Rotary Club. So I said, well, Sandra, these people can't, they make $3 a day. I said, we cannot come here and cause them to have access to this spring without helping to pay, for some type of system to deliver it. We'd never done a water project. We weren't there looking for a water project, so we didn't really know what we needed to do. I said, how much would it cost to deliver the water to where the houses are? She said, probably $15,000 or $20,000. I said, okay. So we come home and our club board met that week, and I told them the story I just told you and asked them if we could have a fundraiser and raise $15,000 or $20,000 and deliver the water that we cause them to have access to by telling their story at a club meeting. And it was unanimous. They all were in favor of it. That's what we're supposed to do as Rotarians. So after the board meeting, the club president told me that to call our district governor. His name was Rich Waugh. I think he passed away a few years ago, but he was from the Aiken Club. And they said, see if there's any kind of matching grants that we can get from the Rotary International Foundation. So I called the governor and told him the same story I just told you. And he said, yep. He said, that's what we're supposed to do as Rotarians. He said, for every dollar y'all raise in Fort Mill, we'll give you $3. I said, wow, that's good. So I go back to the board meeting and I tell them, I said, look, last month we were ready to raise $20,000. Why don't we still raise 20, get the 3-to-1 match, and we'll do this village and another 1 or 2 near there. So that's how it all started. And the village that we're getting ready to apply for, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, I think is village number 28 that we're trying to apply for now. These projects have put clean water to about 14,000 people, and we spent almost $1.5 million of money through the Rotary Foundation and other clubs like yours by simply taking people down there and letting them see the need and interact with the people. And about half the people we take down there go back a second time, just like Alberto and Franca. They've been a number of times with us. So that's how it started. And so with that, I will turn it over to Alberto and Franca and let them show some of the pictures that they took from our last trip.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Al. And I would also like to make a little note that Ben is here like a sign observer, but Ben is is a partnership duo, and he's the man that writes all the global grants. And I think, Ben, you are now the chair or deeply involved at district level to help writing global grants for the entire district. Is that right?
So the global grants are let's put credit where credit's due. The Hondurans are the ones they're actually writing the grants. They have access to the information. I work with them, kind of make some suggestions, but they do the heavy lifting. But yeah, I have been in a district role as the global grant coordinator for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, ever since Gary Goforth stepped away from it. So yeah, been doing that for a bit.
And how long have you been doing a water project with Al in Honduras?
10 years maybe. I started going, yeah, maybe 12. Not too shortly after I joined the Rotary Club. I like Al. Went down with church group building houses. Went on a trip with Al. Learned about Rotary down there, and decided it was a great way to serve the same people that we were building houses for. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Ben. And anybody has a question for Al and Ben before we're trying to show you something what we've done in this last fantastic trip? Okay, so let me try to share my screen, and and Franca will start talking over the few first slides, and I will continue, and I will let Franca complete the last 4 or 5 slides. So we'll kind of share the burden here. So bear with me, trying to get this thing. Of course, I have way too many things open.
Alberto, in the meantime, if you want to mute yourself, or they we're gonna have a echo.
Of course I will. And I'm muting now, myself now.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ben and Al, for being here today, and thank you so much for giving Alberto and I the opportunity to see firsthand what the Rotary Foundation does outside our communities. In this case is Honduras. The map that you see, well, we did our trip between February 29 and March 6, and the map that you see on the next slide that Alberto is going to show us is the map of Honduras. Copan Ruinas and Santa Rosa de Copan, those are the 2 clubs that the district has been working for those water projects that Al mentioned, and they are on the west side of Honduras. Next, please. So every time we arrive in Copan or Santa Rosa, it's a very warm welcome. There is a lot of fellowship going on around food. You know, we like to have a good fellowship and good food, but it's like going back home all the time, no matter how many times you have been there. It's your first time or your 10th time, the warmth and the affection and the exchanges are real and are really felt, and they can now be more happy to have us as a guest. We had several occasions to meet with the Club of Copan, and then we also did some work. We visited a village that has a potential for another project, the water project, and the name of that village is Monte de los Negros, and I leave Alberto to give you more details on this project. And of course, Ben and Al can jump in anytime.
Okay, and so basically, after the wonderful fellowship, eating and drinking and having fun with friends of a Copan Ruinas Rotary Club, basically, a couple days after we landed there, we took a drive with the Copan Ruinas Rotary Club, and about a 45-minute drive up the mountains from here, Copan here, going up the mountains to Monte de los Negros. That Monte de los Negros is actually very close. I don't know, it's hard, you can hardly see. I tried to put an orange arrow. That is a Honduras-Guatemala borderline. As a matter of fact, you can see that they have put back in 1933, some basically placeholder or point that shows where the actual borderline is, but it's actually most virtual. There's just wooden fence there, in the middle of the middle. Okay, I'm sorry. I was saying that you guys see the wrong. Which are you seeing? What are you seeing right now? Franca told me that you seen the presenter. The presenter.
You have to start the slideshow, Alberto, so we
and
can
try it again.
start
Okay, hold on a second. Let me try that again. Sorry about that. I don't know why it is let me do start the presentation again.
As we have learned from Lene, and I didn't know this until she helped us learn it, in the bottom right corner, there's a little book-shaped icon. And if you click on that one, I think you see the whole slide without your notes page.
Okay, so let's see if we can do this.
While Alberto's navigating back to the last slide, the white kind of mini obelisk that was in the bottom left-hand corner was the demarcation that's been there for a long time between Guatemala and Honduras. And that was an incredibly short walk from where we were having a meeting with the community members of Monte de los Negros. So we're really close to the border. There you go. And that's Kathy Guerra is one of the Copan members. And last thing, and then I'll shut up and let Alberto go. This grant is just a couple of days away from being finished, so we can get it authorized and get it into the Rotary Foundation's hands for vetting and hopefully approval.
Thank you, Ben. I hope you and I see you guys now see the correct screen, which it should be the slideshow instead of a presenter notes. I apologize for that. So when we got to Monte de los Negros up there, and now this thing is not working. We went up there, and that was a group on the left. You see that the Copan Ruinas Rotary Club folks with our group, and to the right, but basically we had a stand-up meeting at the highest and farthest house from the village, and which is actually the one closest to the Guatemala-Honduras borderline. And they are about 1 kilometer, so probably less than 3/4 of a mile from the borderline. We had that stand-up meeting, and while we were getting together and started talking and started the meeting, I see, and that's a picture in the middle, I see this little kid. Actually, I don't see his face. He's kneeling down, his face to the floor. I don't know what he's doing for a couple of minutes. And after a couple of minutes, he stands up. I mean, he raises his hand and he's holding a little duck chick in his hand. He was like petting the duck chick. That was really something very affectionate or about that. So here's where we had the meeting. This on the right is the farthest house up north, and basically the entire village is about, and again, Ben and Al, correct me when I'm saying something wrong, according to our notes, 117 houses to be that need water, and each house, it's average about 5 folks to each house. So it's about 600 people to be served. And basically, how the process works is that there would be discussion between the the Copan Ruinas Rotary Club, the municipality lady, which is one on the left, on the first left slide, the village who has like a village head, a water board head, and basically discussion about commitment of the village, paperwork needed, and one of the first questions that are asked are, do you guys know where the source is? Yes, it's about 7, I don't know if that's the one with 7 kilometers away, but have you had the rights to use the source? I say, yes, we actually bought the rights of the source, and it costed us 400,000 lempiras, which translated in dollars about $16,000, which is a lot of money, considering how much the average Honduran worker or family earn. So it's a great effort for them to put up the money to buy that source. But that's really first and most important thing they need to do. The second thing is that because in this case, the pipeline that will bring the water from the source to the first collection tank will have to briefly run through Guatemala. They had to get permission from the state of Guatemala to run the pipe. They said they already have that. So as Ben said, this is close to be completed as far as all the MOUs and the paperwork and commitment. And so hopefully that will be the very next project that will be starting pretty soon. So after that meeting at the village, basically we went back to the hotel, and the following morning we drove from Copan Ruinas here to Santa Rosa de Copan. Unfortunately, there's not a straight route through the mountains, that you had to go back for about an hour and then drive back to Santa Rosa de Copan for an hour. It take a couple of hours to get there. So we get there, we meet with the Santa Rosa de Copan Rotary Club, and they welcomed us and they treated us for first night to an Italian dinner. And actually it was an Italian restaurant run by locals, and they did a pretty good job. I mean, we are Italian, we cook Italian in the house, and they did pretty impressive job, better than a lot of Italian restaurant I ate here in the United States. So very grateful for that. Following morning, they had a full schedule for us. The following morning, we drove from Santa Rosa de Copan up to Trinidad de Copan, up in the mountains that's about a 40-45 minutes drive, to meet with the mayor, the Rotary Water Board, and to discuss a project for a village called, you see here on the right, called Cerro Azul. And so the next slide here we are the municipality office, and welcomed by the mayor, here seen on the left and with a red ball cap, and on the side of a mayor is actually a fantastic resource that the Santa Rosa de Copan Club has, is Marcos. Marcos is a civil engineer specializing in water resources. That means that he's skilled in designing system, assessing needs for water. As a matter of fact, he already assessed that this particular project will have a need for 2 tanks, about 15,000 gallons each. One is the tank that will collect the water from the source, which is close to the village. And from there will be a pump that will pump up at a higher level, because the houses on the village are at different levels or different elevation, to an upper tank, another sister tank, about 15,000 gallons, and from there will be a distribution network or pipeline that take the water to the houses. In this case, the mayor told us there are 136 houses to be served, and if we consider the same average, about 5 people each house, we're talking about serving 1,100 people. This is a part of a Grover grant that Formil and Santa Rosa de Copan has been working on. Is actually near to completion, and please, Ben and Al, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not more than 3 or 4 weeks away to total completion. And so we were there to they discuss a few details, and when we finished with the meeting at the mayor's office, we actually and here you see actually on the right, that's the municipal office, and a group photo of our group, the Santa Rosa de Copan folks or Rotarians, and the mayor, which is actually funny because I'm short, he's shorter than I am, and he's sitting beside Ben, who is about 675 feet tall. and these guys to the left are actually part of a water board, if I'm not wrong. From that point, we actually hopped on our cars and drove up to the point closest to the water source, and from there we had to proceed on foot. On the center actually slide, you see that there is a SUV marked Rotary. That SUV was donated to the Santa Rosa de Copan Rotary Club by I believe the Michigan Rotary Club a few years back. So we started our climb, and as you can see that's Franca. That guest needed some help because it's really in part very, very steep climb. And we finally get to the source. The source is already covered in concrete and has, you see on the center slide, what is called the spring box. That's where the main shadow valve reside, and is protected and covered from a concrete lead. And that's from where basically the main pipeline starts from there. It goes down all the way to the village. As you can see on these pictures, the vegetation is like jungle-like, and that's because, of course, Honduras is like, I think, around 700 or 800 miles from the equator. So we're up at about 800, 900 meters elevation, which is 2,700 feet elevation, and the temperature was like 98 degrees. And that was like the beginning of March. So that's to tell you how the climate is there. And we were at the water source and got the group pictures with Rotarians, the villagers, and some of the villagers' kids. And Franca just actually showing how clear the water is from coming out of the spring box. Again, that's another picture of just the villagers and Alban and Santa Rosa de Copan folks. And you see how affectionate the villagers are because they really are thankful for what has been done, and the love that comes from the Rotarian and all the hard work they also put in to get this project completed and sustainable. On our way back, we walk back down basically parallel, following the path of the main pipeline that you also see crosses some ridges on the center, on the center slide. And again, this beautiful kid that was like spent all the time with Franca. Go down to the village. Basically, you're looking at the lowest level collection tanks. That's where from the water from the source gets first their 15,000 gallon tanks, and they already have clear drinkable water there. And the center picture, you see Al and what he does all the time. When the project gets to drinkable water, he has a ritual, and I would love for Al just to spend a couple of words why you do that, and what are your thoughts when you're doing that?
Well, it's just washing my hands in their water. So it's kind of don't make a big deal out of it, but they watch every move you make. And when they see you do something, that meaningful, it means something to them too. So it's just something I started doing 28 villages ago and have kept it up over the years.
Okay, well, thank you. And that shows your extreme passion for what you guys do in there. And so from the village, we went back up on foot to the other tank. That's a tank that's at the upper level. So that's where water gets pumped up from the lower tank to the upper tank. And that's where the distribution to the houses starts from. You see on the right, they're basically almost complete with that tank too. And you see the pipes that are about to be connected to the tank. And that's a distribution network there. So lastly, I want to show something that is also part. This is a hygiene part. They're also basically digging septic tanks for the families, and there are these prefab toilet houses or toilet box that will be positioned on top of a septic tank, and so they're going to have their toilets there, and that complete the water and sanitation project for the village. So at this point, I will basically like to have Franca to take over and talk about our trip from Santa Rosa de Copan to San Juan de Opoa.
Okay, so I'm looking at the clock, so I'm trying to be very concise on this part to leave some time for the question if anybody has any. So San Juan de Opoa is another community around Santa Rosa de Copan. We did a few things in this area. First of all, next slide, please. We met with the community as usual, and they gather all together in a church they are trying to build and complete. But because it was a school time in the morning, we stopped by the school, and the Santa Rosa and us gave some candies to the kids and gave just a few minutes break from their school day. You can see those beautiful faces, and when you see them, you just fall in love with it. They are just so beautiful. And the idea that we can bring water and sanitation to those villages and give them a future, a healthy future, it's just what melts my heart all the time when I see those faces. I'm sorry. So we just spent a few minutes with the kids, and then of course the major reason we were there. We gather in the church. The Santa Rosa de Copan explain how the process works in details, and the picture in the middle is actually the mayor of the community there, and they agreed that they will do everything it takes for them to have water. They started with a prayer, and the person who did the prayer, which is one of the leaders in the committee, was so passionate and so appreciative of our presence. They treated like gods on earth, and the prayer was so passionate that it still makes me cry. During the prayer, she shared the fact that this village has not been able to have potable water or drinkable water for 2 years. 2 years. They have a source where they can buy water, but it's unsustainable financially. They cannot really afford to spend that much money on drinkable water. So what they do, they use whatever source they have, which is not a pure source, is contaminated. The kids get sick with skin diseases and gastrointestinal diseases, and you know the rest of the consequences. So they do have a hope. And the hope is, one is a Rotary that would bring drinkable water to them. And the other hope is that they have a source. They actually have a source where they can get water, and they can, do the system and bring the water to the village. This village has about, I'm sorry, my notes are so small, I can barely read it. This village has about another 1,000 people living on it. They had a well that collapsed, and they had a collection tank that is full of water, which is the one that Alberto is pointing, but they cannot, it has been decommissioned because they cannot use the water in the tank to prevent breaking up the tank itself. So they have to build a new tank, and they have to find a new location. And there is a church nearby that is willing to donate the land so they could build the new tank, and they can do the piping, all the way to the village. And there is also a possible partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that might be able to help with the pipeline system. It's still a lot of talking and partnership seeking, and they need to finalize a lot of things like rights of land and all the technical engineering stuff, but it could be done eventually, and I think they will give us updates in the future. And Ben, of course, is the one who is in touch, and I'll in touch with the Santa Rosa, the Copan, and they will eventually put that in the pipeline if it's doable. So this is the short story about this village. The same day, we also joined the women's of Rotarians, which they have their own committee, like the inner wheel used to be for Rotary when women were not part of Rotary itself. So their committee is more centered into the education and sustainability. And what they do, they provide a scholarship every year to a group of families that are in need of that scholarship. They have a selection process. And in this specific case, they gather all the family and the kids to distribute the scholarship. The scholarship is about providing 2 school uniforms per year, a backpack with school supplies that eventually get replenished during the year when used, sneakers, a set of gym outfits so they can do, I think they do once a week gym and exercises. So that's will take care of it. And they also do a bag of a non-perishable meal of food for the kids. The problem with the economy, how it is, and Alberto probably mentioned, because they don't really make much money. They live out of agricultural and things like that. So sometimes they use the kids to sell items on the street or in tents, and so they skip school and they skip education, and we know how important education is. So they also offer assistance, symbolic assistance to the family. They need to keep the kids in school in order to get the scholarship and for them to eventually get some skills and learn a higher salary. And that's the program that we assisted and participated into, matching the backpacks with the sneakers and other things that they distributed. And those kids are just amazing. So the next slide.
Hey, Franca, real quick,
Yes,
if I may add, it's
Yes.
more than giving those kids kind of the back to school book pack with supplies. There's also a financial stipend that comes to them periodically through the school year that either helps to keep them off the street or get them fed, up to the discretion of the family. But there's a large financial component that was minimized during that presentation.
Yes, correct. Thank you, Ben. And before we left, you know, we contributed. When I say we, I don't want to say the group. I don't want to take a special. But we contribute some scholarship, so you know we can help some in that group. And the next slide. Oh yes, the next slide is a visit to the meeting, to the Rotary Club meeting one evening. They actually moved the date of that meeting for us to be able to attend. That was very nice of them. Alberto and I exchanged our flag with the club president, Marcos. And that night, we also met some members of the Michigan and Arizona Rotary clubs. They are partnering with the Rotaract Club that is working in building a library. And my understanding is that they did a dedication that day. Finally, the project was completed, and they are very proud to have a library for the kids to go to and get more knowledgeable based on topics, science, literacy, and other things, history, etc. So that was a very emotional moment for them because as important as it is, the library for them. And I'm just gonna leave a time for questions. And that was just the beauty of this trip. We drove 5 hours back to San Pedro Sula the next morning and back to the United States. And hopefully, you know, we will go back again next time.
Well, thank you, Franca and Alberto and Al and Ben. They're just, I guess, what strikes me is there are just so many dimensions to this, the technical aspects, the funding, the relationships that are all involved in making this a success. But I'm going to, I think, Barbara, did you have your hand up? You had a question? You're on mute, so you'll need to unmute.
It's clapping with one hand.
I think there's a Zen proverb or something about that, isn't there? The sound of one hand.
This is the round of applause.
Right. Okay. Wow. I actually, even though Al, I've heard you speak to another club, and I know Franca and Roberto, you've shared so much with us, but to put it all together in this amazing conversation, and the scope of it really is mind-blowing. And thank you very much. I do want to make sure if anybody has any questions or comments before we close, please step up.
Yes, Candace, this is Lance. I just am at all the time. I hear Al and Ben make a presentation, and it's so good that Franca and Alberto now are picking up a new presentation and the continuation of these global grants. It's pretty amazing that this is number 28, which is absolutely phenomenal, and it has helped out countless children to be able to live to adulthood, and it's your persistence and your patience and your hard work that's done that. And I just want to thank y'all so much for all that you do.
Amen to that.
Well, thank you to you too, Lance. You also been several times there, and so you're also a big contributor to the water project. So thank you to you and to all the other folks and past the district governor who participated and visited several times. So thank you again.
Right. Julie, you have your hand up?
I do. Thank you all so much for this presentation. It's inspiring. I'm curious, where do you see the continuation of this project in 1 year, 5 years? Where are we headed next?
Al?
Go ahead, Al.
Well, my comment to that would be is one reason we try to take as many people as we can down there. So hopefully we'll have younger Rotarians embrace the project over the years that can pick up where we leave off is our goal. There are a couple of younger ones in our club now that have expressed some interest in it. But at this point, we don't have a plan in place. We hope it continues, but all we can do is see what opportunities present themselves. Ben, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Julie asked about a project, and it sounded like you kind of responded to a program, if you will, of the effort for all of the water projects. But Julie, we've got 5 water projects going on right now. So and they're all in various stages. One's we're waiting on a final report to be approved. One we're waiting on, well, actually 2, kind of one to get submitted, one to be approved for submission. There's a continual list of needs in both of the clubs' areas of influence that, as they present them to us, we try to address. So when in this last trip, Alberto and Franca didn't make it to Vivastoria and Buena Vista, which is a 2-community thing that the grant is almost approved. So that's one that's really start moving dirt soon. So it's a continual process in a broader scope. Sorry, I know we're running out of time. At the meeting we had with the Santa Rosa Club, one of their members presented something. Santa Rosa Club is also involved in a very large wash project. I forgot the other organization now, with Rotary and World Vision, and it's intended to do 13 communities at the same time in Western Honduras. So there's a tremendous amount of need, and we're just trying to do the best we can.
Well,
I just want to add a quick thing about the note from Julie. She's talking about sustainability and continuation. Well, the sustainability, all of those projects are sustainable because of every community has the responsibility to maintain the health of the system. So they have to every year, make aside some funds for any repair or any maintenance that the system is requiring. And that's part of the sustainability they will continue to do. So as far as continuation, I kind of echo whatever Ben and Al already said.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't think in that terms, but sustainability is a critical component of every application. The Rotary Foundation is insistent that their money is going to good use for a long period of time, not just getting thrown away. So yes, thanks for broadening that discussion, Franca.
And a key takeaway there is engaging the local community so that they are invested in the sustainability. And you made that loud and clear. Wow. We can't really say thank you enough, but one of the ways we try is every week, Julie and Lene tag team each month selecting books that go into our little free libraries all around the upstate of South Carolina. And this particular one was selected for all of our speakers today in your honor. And it's called We Are Water Protectors, and it's the winner of the 2021 Caldecott Medal. It's inspired by the many indigenous-led movements across North America and issues an urgent plea to safeguard the Earth's water. So thank you. I think Lene selected this one, and thank you, our guests, for really broadening our horizons. Thank you very much. Now, what we do at the end is, if you will unmute yourself, we share the 4-way test together. So give you a moment to unmute. Of the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it true? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and friendship? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun? Thank you all very, very much for being with us.
Awesome presentation, you guys.
Thank you for allowing me to be a guest.
Really amazing. Really amazing.
Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful rest of your day.
We'll
Thank
be, we'll be returning, late September if any of you would like to go back.
Thank you, Al.